in my final season at Leinster, I had a preseason where I picked up a couple of minor injuries, and really coming into your first year on the senior squad with such a competitive back row, and the 7 back rows that were playing internationally were in front of me. Then you had people coming behind me that were also like high pedigree in a professional setup. There's going to be a couple of make or break moments in your career where you get an opportunity, and if you take it, then you can leap shot forward, and if not, then somebody else leap shot forward in your place. So coming into that final preseason, I picked up a couple of minor strains that put me out of a few preseason games, put me out of a few out of contention for a couple of early season games in the Pro 14. Then I just kind of ended up behind a couple of players in the pecking order there, and then you always kind of have in the back of your head, and this is what the Players Union helps you understand, is that rugby, whether you are the number 1 player in the world, your career could be over within a training session, within a game. So you kind of have to have something in parallel that can, even mentally, just for an outlet outside of the game, but also realistically to have as something that you can turn to then if it isn't working out for you. So throughout that year, I had a lot of decisions to make. It was like I could have looked for. It became clear kind of throughout the season that I probably wasn't going to stay on at Leinster at the end of the season, and then basically I had the decision whether you just call it quits, focus completely outside of rugby, or you continue with rugby. And I was looking at other clubs, but then throughout that year, then I was speaking with the Players Union, and I'd spoken about, like, I would have loved at the time the Major League Rugby was kicking off in the US, and that was something I definitely had my eye on. The US was a country that I have relatives who are out here. I'd been traveling out here most summers when I had some downtime from rugby, and it was a place to kind of capture my imagination. And being able to kind of combine rugby with actually living out here, was kind of where I was thinking in my head, this could be an amazing opportunity to get out here at the crest of MLR. And also at the same time, I was keen to maybe, if there was a way I could balance studies with Major League Rugby or something like that, it was something I was interested in. But I came across the Connacht and Esteem, the Esteem program with the Connacht scholarship opportunity, and that was just like, when I remember reading the description of that opportunity and being like, wow, this is exactly what I've been looking for. It was a year-long program in a top school like Notre Dame, and I was like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, I'm definitely applying for this. I worked with Ella in the Players Union to help develop an application there, and once I got accepted for that, it kind of made my decision a lot easier, because I thought, like, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to come study in a top US university. It was something that rugby definitely helped me achieve through the interview process, and I thought, like, this is probably a good time to follow this dream. I'd been in the rugby system at a high level for 6 years after high school, and I thought now is the time to make this move. So I did it kind of not knowing exactly where it would lead to, whether it would lead into Major League Rugby, whether it would lead somewhere else. I wasn't sure, but I was willing to go on the journey, and that's how I ended up there. And since then, you've seen other Leinster players like Barry Daly, who had to retire due to injury. He's followed a similar path, and he's actually on an MBA right now in Boston College. The network you join is immediately you're part of a family. It felt like a Notre Dame family. The people are so nice. Facilities are beyond belief. Like, an 80,000 seater stadium on campus it really made me think, wow, like, Leinster it's obviously the pinnacle of your career in Ireland, in Dublin, and there's so much passion around that. Well, I think the capacity of the RDS, the home ground there, is like 18,000 or less than 20,000. And then I come out here and there's these there's still kids, like they're 18 to 22 running around, and they've 80,000 people filling a stadium every week for them on national TV. It kind of put things in perspective for me that like there's always going to be something bigger out there. Even if you think you've made to the top, there's always going to be something bigger out there. I was going to wait and see really what I saw when I got out there, because I knew that in Notre Dame, football was like the number one sport, and that was the be all and end all. So I wasn't sure, like, I heard rugby was a club sport. I heard that I'm like, when you're battling against football, I'm sure that's a hard battle to fight in a place like Notre Dame. But I was like pleasantly surprised when I came out. I knew that obviously there was a lot of goodwill behind rugby because there had been a partnership with the IRFU there. That's not something they would look upon lightly if they were partnering. So there was obviously a lot of movements in the right direction. When I got out there, I was pretty wowed by the commitment of the guys out here. That was probably the first thing that got me. Like the level of training that went on here was, I think it was 4 days a week. The guys were training 3-4 days a week with the game. Compared to what they do in club level in Ireland, and that's probably a big comparison to make. Like, when I was playing with UCD, we were a senior AIL club, and we only had training 2 nights a week, and guys were complaining around that. So I think maybe that's just to do with the American work ethic, or what is it? But like the level of training I was very impressed with. I think then the enthusiasm of the guys, like the teamwork, the team spirit out here is pretty impressive too. And just seeing the bond that the rugby team had was something that was great for me to be able to join and contribute to for a year. Was amazing. Like the trips, everything's is further away in the US, so you spend more time with your team on those trips, and you really do create a bond with them. And I definitely made friends there for life, which was great. And yeah, the standard of rugby was very good. Like especially the tactical side of things. Like, obviously you've been making a big effort to learn from the Ireland setup coaches, and I can see how proactive you are in the video sessions now. Like the level of the attention to detail was I was definitely higher than I was expecting, to be honest with you. And yeah, it's a credit to the work and the effort that goes on here, because you are competing with sports like football, baseball, like these multi-billion dollar sports that we don't have to compete with in Ireland. So yeah, I didn't really have in summary, I didn't have expectations, but my expectations that were exceeded. I'm still in the US 2 years later, so that's probably the number one shaping thing. I've stayed around. I've gone down a career path that I never would have imagined 3 years ago. Before I came out here, I came out here just, I think, probably similar to my approach to rugby. It was enthusiastic. I've got this great chance. The next step for me is this master's program, and then I'll take the next step from there. And then I got my full-time job through a referral from another Notre Dame alumni based in New York now. So I think, yeah, it's got a big Notre Dame stamp on my life right now. I've got a lot of thanks for that place. Before I came to New York, I was in contact with Old Blue Rugby Club here, and they were like, it's the rugby family as well that I've been able to leverage in the US. Is it really, once you bond over rugby, then you really open a lot of doors for yourself. So I joined Old Blue when I arrived in New York. Right now, I'm kind of at another crossroads in my rugby career, so I have to make some decisions there. But it's definitely something I'm keen to get back into with Old Blue. It's a great club. So looking forward to see what the upcoming season has for us.